Level 1, the knock. You move into the house because the rent is cheap, and that is the first mistake. The listing promises 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a quiet street, recent repairs, new windows, and immediate availability for anyone desperate enough to sign quickly. It does not mention why the last tenant left before the lease ended or why their furniture stayed behind untouched. It does not mention why the landlord refuses to meet you after sunset even when you offer to come later. He rushes through the showing at 4:30, checks his watch twice, and never turns his back to the bedroom door. When you ask why the rent is so low, he says old houses need the right kind of quiet tenant. You laugh because you think he is joking, but the landlord does not laugh with you or smile at all. 2 days later, you sign anyway because rent everywhere else is impossible and tired people accept strange bargains too easily. On the first night, the house smells like cardboard, dust, fresh paint, and something cold underneath, all 3 of them. You carry boxes inside until your shoulders ache, and each empty room begins feeling quieter than the last one. At 11:43 p.m., you stand in the bedroom, holding folded shirts and notice the wall behind the bed waiting there. It looks freshly painted, almost too clean, but when you tap it, the sound underneath is far too deep. You press your ear against the wall, and the paint feels colder than the room, colder than anything around it. You tell yourself it is plumbing, bad insulation, maybe a branch outside, because fear always needs a normal explanation first. Then, because fear also needs an answer, you raise your hand and knock back 3 times against the cold wall. The house answers immediately, 3 taps from the other side, and that is when the file opens for you tonight. Level 2, the pattern. The second night, you sleep on the couch instead of returning to the bedroom again tonight. You tell yourself the mattress is uncomfortable, and the room still smells too much like paint to sleep there safely. At exactly 3:17 a.m., you wake in blue darkness without knowing what woke you, or why your hands are shaking. The street outside is empty, your phone is on the table, and the living room is completely still around you. Then 3 knocks come again, this time from the wall behind the couch, where no pipe should be waiting tonight. Knock, knock, knock. Too clean, too patient, too deliberate to belong to plumbing or settling wood in an old house. You turn on every light, but the brightness only makes the house feel smaller and more awake than before, somehow. The next night, you prop your phone on stacked books and record the bedroom wall from across the room alone. At 3:17, the knocks return, the lamp flickers once, and your phone freezes on the wall without turning off completely. For 8 seconds, nothing moves on the screen, although you can hear yourself breathing beside it in the room, clearly. When the recording ends, the file corrupts, leaving 1 frame, the wall, the bed, and a thin crack in white paint. You look up, and the crack is really there, running straight down through fresh paint behind your bed tonight again. By morning, it is gone, and the wall looks smooth enough to deny everything that happened at 3:17 last night. You stop telling yourself it is plumbing, because plumbing does not edit video or heal painted cracks by morning alone. You check every wall outside and find no branches, no footprints, no animal holes, no explanation waiting in daylight anywhere. That is when the pattern stops feeling like a sound and starts feeling like a schedule written for you alone. Level 3, the witness. You invite Daniel, because fear becomes heavier when no one else can hear it with you. Daniel is practical, calm, and almost irritatingly reasonable, which is exactly why you need him there inside the house tonight. He checks vents, outlets, baseboards, siding, and the bedroom wall with a flashlight while explaining old houses settle constantly anyway. He says it is probably a raccoon in the crawl space, and for one moment, you almost believe him again. By midnight, both of you stop joking, and the living room feels like a place waiting for testimony from the walls. At 3:17, the first knock comes, and Daniel's face changes before he says a word or tries to explain it. The second knock comes from behind you, and the third answers from the wall behind him inside the room clearly. Daniel walks toward the wall, raises his fist once, and makes the mistake you already made on the first night. He knocks once, and the house knocks once, matching his rhythm so perfectly that Daniel steps backward without speaking. He knocks twice, slower this time, and the wall answers twice from the exact same place beside his hand. Before he can knock again, the wall taps 6 times, one careful knock for every letter in Daniel's name. Daniel turns toward you, and every practical explanation has vanished from his face like someone erased it by hand. He tells you to get your shoes, but the bedroom knocks 3 times before you can answer him. At 3:41 a.m., Daniel leaves and tells you to come with him before the house learns anything else. You tell him you will leave in the morning because terror can still sound reasonable when spoken under porch light. He drives away slowly, and you stay behind, replaying the moment someone else heard it and still escaped. Level 4, the name. At dawn, scraping begins in the bedroom, slow and deliberate against the painted wall. The sound moves in short lines, stops, then starts again, like something hard is writing from inside the wall. You stand in the hallway holding your phone, knowing the room is empty, but still waiting for it to finish. When the scraping stops, you enter and see your first name pressed into the paint above the bed. It is not written on the wall. Each letter looks pushed outward from behind the clean white surface. You take a photo, but the camera shows only a blank wall, smooth and innocent in the picture. You lower the phone, and your name is still there, raised from the paint like a bruise. Before this, the house was strange. Now it is personal, and the difference is worse than fear. You pack a bag with clothes, medication, your laptop, and everything that makes escape feel practical enough to attempt. When you reach the front door, the deadbolt turns by itself, one slow click inside the quiet hall. Then the chain slides across, locking you inside without a hand touching it from either side of the door. From the bedroom, the wall knocks 3 times, then 3 more, then 3 more, steady and patient. 9 knocks, the exact number of letters in your full name, counted before you can stop yourself. You stand with your bag on your shoulder, realizing the house does not need to open doors anymore. The bedroom wall waits silently behind you, but the silence feels like attention rather than absence now. That is, when the house stops being a house and becomes something that has started learning you. Level 5, the history. By morning, the front door opens normally, as if nothing impossible held it shut. That almost makes it worse, because a locked door would have given you something physical to prove. You go to the county records office, where fluorescent lights make every nightmare feel embarrassing and difficult to explain. The clerk gives you a terminal, then pauses when you say you live at that address now. The house was built in 1949, sold twice, and rented for decades to people who rarely stayed long. A family moved out in 1989 after 4 months, leaving no forwarding address in the property record. Another tenant broke a lease in 1997 and abandoned furniture that no one ever came back to claim. In 2014, police were called 6 times in 3 weeks for disturbances no officer could verify. One report says Marlene Price heard knocking from inside the bedroom wall at night, always around the same time. Another report says the wall knew her son's name, though no officer recorded seeing writing anywhere. There is no third report, only a note saying the tenant vacated without forwarding information or returning keys. A faded 1989 complaint says a child heard his mother calling from inside the wall after midnight. You fold the report carefully because the paper suddenly feels less like a record and more like a warning. For the first time, you understand the knocks are not the haunting, they are only how it introduces itself. Outside the records office, daylight feels too normal, and the house feels farther away than it actually is. But the folded report in your pocket seems colder than the rest of your clothes while you drive away. Level 6, the imitation. You call your mother from a grocery store parking lot with the engine still running. She lives 2 states away, but her voice almost breaks you because it sounds normal, warm, and safely human. You do not tell her everything, only that the house is strange and you might stay somewhere else tonight. She hears what you are not saying and tells you to leave immediately, not tomorrow, not after one more night. You promise her you will, then return anyway because your wallet, laptop, and medicine are still inside. The house looks ordinary at sunset, which feels insulting after everything it has already done to you. Inside, the air is warm, like someone has been breathing in closed rooms with the windows sealed shut. You move quickly through the hallway, collecting your things without looking directly at the bedroom wall. Then your mother's voice calls from the bedroom, using the soft tone she saved for childhood nightmares. Your phone is in your hand, and the real call with her ended 30 minutes before you arrive. The voice says your childhood nickname, the one she did not use on the phone that afternoon. You do not answer, and the silence after your refusal feels angry enough to change the air. Then the voice becomes Daniel, begging from inside the wall, saying he came back and cannot get out. You know it is not him, but the fear in his voice breaks exactly where Daniel's fear would break. The house is not just copying voices, it is copying what those voices mean to you. It knows who you would open the door for and who you would follow into the dark. Level 7, the investigator. Daniel finds Ellis Ward, a man who calls his work residential anomaly assessment. Ellis arrives in a gray sedan with no logo, carrying recorders, old cameras, and a permanent tiredness. Before stepping inside, he asks one question: did you answer it when the wall knocked back? You say yes, and he looks at you long enough for the answer to become another mistake. Inside, Ellis photographs every wall, places recorders in 4 rooms, and tapes thin paper strips over closed doors. He reads the county reports at your kitchen table and stops when he reaches the complaint from 1989. You ask whether he has seen this before, and he says, not exactly, which is worse than no. At 3 o'clock a.m., you, Daniel, and Ellis sit in the living room with all lights off. At 3:17, the bedroom wall knocks 3 times, and Ellis does not move or even blink. The recorder on the table crackles, then plays your voice saying, "I let it in," from somewhere enclosed. The knocks move from bedroom to hallway, then kitchen, then the living room wall directly behind Ellis. For the first time, Ellis looks afraid, gathers only 2 devices, and leaves the rest behind. At the front door, he says this is not a haunting anymore, not after it used your voice. 3 days later, a package arrives with 1 recorder and a note, "Do not play this in the house." Level 8, the attachment. You book a hotel room 15 miles away and pay for 2 nights. The room is clean, white, temporary, and empty of everything old enough to remember your name. For a few hours, you almost feel safe, which is how the next part of the file begins. You place Ellis's recorder on the desk, shower, lock the door, and turn off the lights at 10:30. At 3:17, 3 knocks come from inside the bathroom mirror instead of from the wall. You turn on the lamp and see your reflection standing in the glass, pale, tired, and waiting. Then your reflection raises 1 hand, though you do not, and knocks 3 times from the other side. You leave the hotel without checking out, carrying only your bag and the panic in your throat. In the parking lot, your phone shows a voicemail from your own number, without any missed call. The message contains breathing, then your voice whispering, "You took the wrong thing with you." You look toward the passenger seat and see Ellis's recorder there, though you left it on the hotel desk. That is when you understand the house was never the container, it was only the meeting place. Whatever answered from the wall now has your name, your voice, and a way to travel with you. The hotel mirror remains behind you, but its reflection feels closer than the house ever did. You drive until sunrise, watching every window and mirror like they might learn how to open next. By morning, the road feels less like escape and more like distance the file has already measured. You do not go back because you are brave, you go back because waiting feels worse. The house is silent when you arrive, and that silence feels like something holding its breath. Level 9, the wall. You return with a crowbar, a flashlight, and Ellis's recorder in your pocket. Daniel waits outside in the car, because someone has to stay beyond the walls if the door locks again. The bedroom wall looks smooth, white, and innocent, as if it has never known your name at all. You strike it once with the crowbar, and the sound inside is deeper than the room should allow. The second strike opens the drywall, and cold air spills out like breath from somewhere underground. Behind the wall, there is no insulation, no wiring, and no structure that makes sense. There are folded papers packed tightly into the empty space, hundreds of them, yellowed, clean, and waiting. You pull one free and read the name Marlene Price, crossed out by a single dark line. Another paper says Thomas Avery, crossed out. Another says Eli Mercer, crossed out in childlike handwriting. Each paper has a name, a date, and 1 word written beside it. Answered, stayed, followed, returned. Then you find your own full name, not crossed out, written in pencil that looks newly pressed. Under your name, there is only 1 word, and it is worse than a threat, listening. The recorder turns on by itself inside your pocket and plays your real voice from a memory you do not have. It says, "If you hear this, do not read the last page," and the wall goes completely silent. A final blank sheet waits deeper inside the wall, folded smaller than all the others around it. Letters begin pressing upward from beneath the paper, forming 4 words, "You brought it out." Level 10, the open file. The knocking starts from every wall at once, louder than before. 3 taps come from the ceiling, 3 from the floor, and 3 from the front door. Daniel screams your name from outside the house, but the hallway screams it too, perfectly matching his panic. You no longer know which voice is real, and that is the choice the house wanted. You break through the bedroom window and land in wet grass with glass caught in your sleeves. Daniel drags you toward the car while the house knocks behind you from every surface at once. When you look back, your reflection stands in the bedroom window, smiling from inside the dark room. You never live in the house again, and you leave behind anything that touched those walls too long. Daniel helps you move what little remains, but neither of you speaks near the bedroom door. You burn the papers from inside the wall, except the page with your own name on it. For 3 months, nothing knocks, nothing whispers, and every quiet room almost feels safe again. Then Rachel emails about your old address and says she and her husband just moved in. Her second message asks if you ever heard knocking, and her third says it only happens around 3:17. If you notice the first mistake before the wall answered, comment I am Sturad. Subscribe before the next file opens. You close the laptop, and from the wall behind you, something knocks 3 times. The house was rented again. The file was closed. The case was not.